Help! Mommy is all dried up.
I felt a sense of unease as I answered the early morning call. It was an SOS from my 5-year-old grandson. What do you mean? Where's Daddy? I asked, unable to grasp the situation, only to be hit with another shock.
He pushed Mommy down the stairs a while ago and then left.
I had always thought my daughter's family was living happily together. What on earth had happened to them? Trying to calm myself down, I hurried to my daughter's house. Little did I know then that I would soon be caught up in such a dreadful incident. I bolted out of the house upon receiving a call from Connor, gripping the steering wheel with confusion. It dawned on me that Maggie, my daughter, had been acting strangely lately. She seemed withdrawn, spoke less, and appeared thinner each time we met. When I expressed concern and asked, "What's wrong?" she would laugh it off, saying she just had a bad case of summer fatigue. However, behind that smile, there was no energy. Despite my worry, I regretted not paying more attention, fearing I might interfere too much. With these thoughts in mind, I arrived at my daughter's house and let myself in with the spare key I had. Inside the house, not a sound could be heard, so I called out Maggie and Connor's names loudly as I made my way to the living room. What's going on here? I couldn't help but cover my mouth in shock and stood frozen in place. Despite it being the height of summer, the living room was tightly shut, and inexplicably, the heating was on. Inside the room, which was steaming like a sauna, my daughter and grandson lay collapsed with flushed faces. Maggie. Connor. Stay with me. Though I could confirm they were still breathing, they both were unconscious and neither of them responded to my calls. Both. I quickly called an ambulance and then used ice packs from the refrigerator to cool down their bodies. After that, I contacted my son-in-law, Hugo, on his mobile phone. He said he had been on a business trip since the previous day and was terribly shaken by the news of his wife and son's critical condition.
Come to think of it, Maggie had been saying she wasn't feeling well for a while.
Apparently, my daughter had been taking sleeping pills every night because she couldn't sleep.
She must have accidentally switched the air conditioning to heating and then fallen asleep as the medication took effect.
His words gave me a sense of unease. Could such a thing really happen? Maggie had been sleeping in the living room, not the bedroom. Moreover, both my daughter and grandson were not in pajamas, and she hadn't even removed her makeup yet. Given Maggie's meticulous nature, I couldn't imagine her taking medication and falling asleep in the living room before putting Connor to bed. However, at that moment, my thoughts were interrupted by the approaching sirens of the ambulance. Since my son-in-law mentioned he had urgent work and couldn't return immediately, I told him I would contact him again once we arrived at the hospital. With that, I was about to hang up the phone. By the way, Connor said something strange on the phone. He said Daddy pushed Mommy down the stairs a long time ago and left. Do you know what that could mean?
I have no idea at all. Maybe he had a scary dream or something.
Yeah, you're probably right. Sorry for saying weird things. Well, the ambulance has arrived, so I gotta go. At that time, I still had no suspicion whatsoever about Hugo, and I believed as he said, that my grandson must have had a bad dream. Maggie and Connor, who were taken to the hospital, were suffering from severe heat stroke and dehydration, and they did not regain consciousness that day. However, thanks to the diligent efforts of the doctors, they managed to overcome the critical condition, and the next day, it was my grandson who woke up first. Connor. Thank goodness. Overwhelmed with relief, I couldn't help but cry.
Where's Mommy?
Don't worry, she's gonna be fine. And, Daddy will come here soon. Then, my grandson's face suddenly contorted.
No. Don't let Daddy come.
Oh, no. You still need to rest. I quickly stopped Connor, who had jumped out of bed in a panic.
I want to see Mommy. Where is she?
Connor, calm down. What do you mean? What happened?
Daddy pushed Mommy down the stairs.
All right. It's going to be okay. Just calm down. I comforted my excited grandson, gave him some water to drink, and decided to listen to what he had to say.
Mommy and Daddy have been fighting all the time.
The story told by Connor was something I had no idea about at all. He said that Hugo regularly raised his hand to Maggie. That night, they had a heated argument again, and in front of Connor, Hugo pushed Maggie down the stairs. What the heck? I recalled my daughter's recent behavior and finally understood that this was the reason she had been so down. However, while violence is absolutely unacceptable, marital issues can be complex and only truly understood by the individuals involved. In addition, I had reservations about how much I could believe what my grandson said. Hugo I knew was gentle and kind, someone who cherished Maggie and Connor deeply. Moreover, he had said on the phone that he had been on a business trip since the previous day.
Grandma, do you not believe what I'm saying?
Sensing my reluctance and unease, he looked at me with teary eyes. Seeing this, I was deeply shaken. Connor is normally very smart and not the kind of child to tell pointless lies. I found it especially puzzling that he hadn't woken up until morning in such a hot room. Hey, Connor. Do you know where Daddy went after he pushed Mommy?
I don't know. But he said he had an important promise with Barbara.
Barbara?
Yeah, Daddy's affair.
What did you say? I couldn't believe my ears hearing such shocking words from my 5-year-old grandson. Connor, do you understand what affair means?
Not really. I secretly overheard Mommy saying that to Daddy.
I sighed involuntarily. I never imagined that my daughter and her husband were going through something like that. My heart ached, thinking about how much Maggie and Connor must have been suffering, and my distrust toward Hugo grew within me. Could it be that he was the one who turned on the heating in the room? As that thought struck me, a chill ran down my spine. It suggested that my son-in-law might have intended to harm Maggie and Connor. I hurriedly tried to dismiss such a terrifying idea, thinking it couldn't possibly be true, but the suspicions kept growing stronger and stronger. Hey, Connor. Take a deep breath and try to remember slowly. Did Daddy give you anything before he left the house? Like medicine or something? My question made my grandson pause and think for a moment.
I remember it now. He gave me juice.
I knew it. Did you drink it?
Yeah, I did. I told him I didn't want it because I was worried about Mommy. But Daddy had a scary look on his face and told me to drink it.
At that moment, my grandson seemed to recall what had happened, and started crying. Okay. I'm sorry for asking you something difficult. You're safe now. I was deeply confused, but tried to comfort my grandson by rubbing his back and gently stroking his head. After a while, Connor seemed to calm down and fell asleep again. Afterward, I went alone to my daughter and son-in-law's house. Before my grandson fell asleep at the hospital, he had told me something important. He mentioned that just before the incident, she was doing something on her phone. I thought there might be some clues there, so I wanted to check it out. And indeed, my suspicion was correct. It seemed that Maggie had been recording conversations with Hugo. When I pressed the play button, intense arguing between the couple played from her phone. Then, I heard Maggie shout, "Stop," followed by a loud crashing noise. Furthermore, the recording vividly captured Connor's crying and Hugo's forcefully making him drink the juice. I knew it. Hugo was trying to kill Maggie and Connor. Driven by uncontrollable anger, I was going to stand up with crucial evidence in hand, intending to go to the police. However, in the next moment, I felt a sharp impact to the back of my head and lost consciousness. How much time passed after that, I wonder. I woke up with an excessive heat and was astonished to see an unbelievable sight. The house was on fire. I panicked and tried to get up in a hurry, but the next moment, I froze in terror. My hands and feet were bound tightly with thick ropes, and I realized I couldn't move. "Someone, help me!" I shouted at the top of my lungs, but I was alone in the sealed house. My voice didn't reach outside. Surrounded by rising smoke, my throat parched. The suffocating fear overcame me to the point where I could no longer let out my voice. Ah. It's over. But just as I felt despair in this dire situation, suddenly the window glass shattered, and someone jumped into the room, saving me. Several hours later, I made a call to the perpetrator who had attacked me at my daughter's house. "You've really gone too far. But unfortunately for you, I'm still alive." The damage to the house was just a small fire. Upon hearing this, the person on the other end of the phone was briefly stunned, but then immediately played dumb.
What are you talking about?
Actually, while I was unconscious from being hit, the perpetrator had taken the phone with the evidence. Of course, it was none other than my son-in-law, Hugo. How audacious. I know everything now. What you did to Maggie and Connor, and you even tried to kill me after I found out.
Excuse me. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, you can pretend to be clueless for now. You might not know this, but there are other pieces of evidence.
Wait. What do you mean by evidence?
If you want to find out, come to my house right now. I want to hear the truth from you before I go to the police. I hung up the phone after saying that. Now, it's finally time for the showdown. I'm going to crush that devil of a man thoroughly. Prepare yourself because I won't hold back. With each passing moment, my determination to confront my son-in-law grew stronger and stronger. Hugo arrived within an hour after that.
What was that phone call about? It was quite surprising to hear such things out of the blue.
I was the one who was surprised. I didn't know you were such a cowardly person.
What's this all about? Please don't say such a thing.
Don't play innocent. This morning, Connor woke up. It was a lie that you were on a business trip. I heard everything you did to my daughter and grandson the night before yesterday. I glared fiercely at Hugo and raised my voice, but he seemed completely unfazed. With an air of calm confidence, he smirked and mocked me.
Humph, bullshit. I don't know what you heard, but that's either a dream Connor had or his lie. It's crazy to believe what such a small kid says.
Connor doesn't lie, and he's much smarter than you think. He knew that you were cheating, Hugo. He's been hurt by his parents' bad relationship for a long time.
So, I don't know anything about that. Isn't it just some fantasy typical of kids?
Don't play dumb. You made plans to go on a trip with your mistress. And because Maggie confronted you about it, you got into an argument and tried to harm my daughter and grandson. Maggie and Connor's anguish weighed heavily on my mind, and tears involuntarily streamed down my cheeks. However, Hugo looked even more delighted and sneered at me.
It's completely ridiculous. Are you starting to lose your mind because of your age?
Maggie recorded your conversations from the night before last on her phone. I listened to that audio earlier.
Oh, is that so? Then please, let me hear it too.
Don't play dumb. You took her phone from me. And then you tried to kill me by setting the fire.
Ha 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 ha. In the end, you have no evidence. That means it's just an accusation. Even if you go to the police, they'll just laugh it off as the ramblings of children and old people.
Hugo then burst into an exaggerated laugh, clutching his stomach theatrically.
Well then, I'm leaving. I don't have time to play detective with an old woman.
Then, he turned his back and started to walk away. Wait a moment. Can you still make excuses after seeing this? I called out to stop him, and as he turned around, I thrust my phone screen in front of him and started playing a certain video. It was the living room of my daughter's house a few hours earlier. The video showed my son-in-law striking me from behind with a golf club, setting fire, and then hastily fleeing the scene. Seeing this, Hugo's demeanor abruptly changed. The calmness he had maintained vanished instantly, and his expression shifted dramatically.
Hey, what's this? When did you film that?
Even you didn't expect it. I looked straight at him, and he turned pale, his lips trembling uncontrollably. See? I told you there was more evidence. If I show this to the police, you're done.
Damn it, you meddling old fool.
Hugo finally snapped and lunged at me, trying to snatch the phone from my hand. However, just before he could reach me, I swiftly dodged and stuck out one foot, tripping him.
Damn.
Hugo lost his balance and stumbled, hitting his leg hard against the table and collapsing in pain.
You damn old hag. I can't forgive you for this.
He stood up, eyes bloodshot, and began to slowly approach me, loosening his tie. Watching his every move, I positioned myself to be able to escape in either direction, while continuing to confront Hugo. Finally showing your true colors, aren't you? It was the same the night before last, wasn't it? You got angry when Maggie accused you of cheating and pushed her down the stairs, right?
Yeah, that's right. She was nagging so much, I couldn't stand it.
And you deliberately switched the air conditioner to heating, didn't you?
That's right, I did it. Before that, I secretly put sleeping pills in her drink, so I expected her to sleep until morning.
You coward. Why would you do that? If you hated Maggie so much, you should have just divorced her. Inside my heart, intense sadness swirled. My precious daughter had been treated like trash, and I couldn't help but feel sorry for her.
Yeah, that was my plan. But then Maggie started talking about demanding alimony. She had been a stay-at-home mom all this time, living an easy life on my dime. She had some nerve, that woman.
Even so, that doesn't justify dragging Connor into this. He's your child.
I met another woman. Connor was in the way of starting a new life with her.
You monster.
Say whatever you want.
With those words, my son-in-law shouted and took advantage of my momentary distraction to lunge at me. I instinctively twisted my body, but the next moment, I was caught from behind and restrained tightly.
should have just cooperated from the start. Making me go through this trouble.
Hugo said as he began to wrap the tie he had in his hand around my neck. Stop this now. Even if you do this, Maggie will tell everything you've done once she wakes up.
Don't worry, you'll soon join her. Hope you meet again in the afterlife.
Stop. It hurts. His grip on the tie tightened, and my vision started to blur.
Stop right there.
At that moment, the sliding doors leading to the back room opened, and a woman holding a video camera burst into the room.
I've recorded everything you've done. It's over. Now, let go of her.
My goodness, Barbara. What are you doing here?
In the next moment, Hugo seemed to forget about me completely and stood frozen, looking as if he'd been caught red-handed. And no wonder. It turned out that Barbara, his mistress hiding in the next room, had been secretly recording every despicable act of his. Our meeting happened just 2 hours ago. I found myself in a dire situation, engulfed in flames at my son-in-law's house. The one who burst in and rescued me was her. As it turns out, Barbara had been deceived by Hugo into believing he was single, and they had been dating all along. However, suspicious of his behavior, Barbara had doubts and decided to secretly follow Hugo after their vacation together. She traced him to my daughter's house. She went to the backyard, and peeked into the house through the curtains, and what she saw was beyond belief. Barbara, frozen with fear upon discovering his true nature, quickly recorded his actions on her smartphone. However, upon seeing flames erupt, she snapped back to reality, smashed through the window, and used a fire extinguisher to put out the fire, and saved me. Afterwards, having confessed everything, we decided to team up and seek revenge on Hugo together.
How dare you deceive me all this time, lying about being single. And to think you were capable of such terrifying things. I'm deeply disappointed in you.
No, it's not like that. It was all for you.
Huh? What are you saying? Don't blame others.
I love you. Please, help me out. If we can get rid of her, we can be together.
This is no joke. Besides, it's too late now.
At that moment, as if on cue, the sirens of a police car that Barbara had secretly called could be heard.
Hey! Why did you call the cops? My life is going to be ruined.
What are you saying at this point? You brought this upon yourself.
Please. Please let me go.
Hugo, who had been so confident just moments ago, now knelt on the ground, crying.
Barbara, please. Help me. We loved each other so passionately.
Stop it. You disgust me. You are the greatest regret of my life.
She said dismissively and turned away. Then, as if he had never treated me so terribly, he suddenly changed his attitude and clung to me desperately.
Please forgive me. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to Maggie and Connor.
Huh? If you want to, do it behind bars.
Please don't say that. I will change my ways from now on.
I let out a big sigh. Listen, there's no from now on with you. We will never forgive you. Never show your filthy face in front of us again. Barbara and I handed over the sobbing son-in-law to the police. Then, we watched as Hugo, now in handcuffs, was pushed into the police car, and we high-fived each other. Afterward, My son-in-law received a prison sentence and was locked up behind bars. I received $15,000 in compensation from him for the attempt on my life. My daughter regained consciousness, and eventually, her divorce from Hugo was finalized. She claimed $20,000 in compensation and $100,000 in child support. He was also demanded to pay compensation by his affair partner Barbara, and sold the house to cover these payments, but it seems he ultimately ended up in debt. Having been cut off by his parents, he faces a bleak future even upon release from prison. Meanwhile, on my side, I started a new life with my daughter and grandson, living together in my home. Maggie started working to raise Connor well. With my daughter by my side, I'll protect my grandson's smile for as long as I can.